I will be your translator from the chat to her. So Charlotte, maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit. You're a guide with us, but what's your...
Well, my name is Charlotte. So I was born and raised in Bordeaux. I've been living in Paris for 9 years now. No, 8, which is quite a long time. Working as a guide for 5 years, and I love it.
Okay.
It's pretty cool. I think that's my job that keeps me in Paris. Whenever I want to move, I feel like, okay, I should move out. I'm sick of this city. And then I'm like, oh no, I have a super cool job. Paris is my office.
That's awesome. And so what is your, what was the interest for you to go to the catacombs in the, I mean, do you remember the first time you've been there? And
the first time, the first time I went underground was in the illegal part. That's how I discovered the catacombs. So we can talk about that at some point during the tour. And the first time I went to the actual catacombs was when I had to prepare for a tour.
Okay. So you're going to talk about both the museum catacombs, but also the one we can visit, but also some illegal catacombs. That's going to be quite scary, I hope.
It's not scary. It's cool, actually.
Not scary? Okay. So we have people from all over the places. So bonjour, to everyone. So they're telling us that they're from Quebec and from New York and from Chicago. So hello, everyone, from California.
Wow, look at you.
So there are people from all over. Now it's still sunny in Paris, but it's going to be darker and darker. So we're going to get deeper in the subject. So again, if you have any comments, please feel free to just ask us, and we're going to be to answer them. Okay, so maybe just one thing about the catacombs. So I heard it's all over Paris. I mean, all under Paris, right? It's everywhere, or is it located in one?
Technically, the catacombs are not all over Paris. Okay. The catacombs is only the part where the bones are. That's only the catacombs. The rest is quarries.
I see. Okay, so when we say the catacombs, like in this movie, this scary movie where you have like the doors of hell and stuff like that, and they're saying that the bones are everywhere around Paris. So it's not the case.
No, it's not true.
Okay.
Yeah, like to give you an idea, the quarries are 10% of the surface of Paris, and the catacombs are 1/8 of this 10%.
Okay.
It's only 11,000 kilometers square.
Okay.
So it's a tiny part.
Okay. And is it easy to go there? The people who never been there, like, can you tell us? Because for me, I know, it's always at least an hour or 2 of queuing.
Oh, minimum. Yeah. I had a presentation and I put a picture of the entrance to give an idea, but that's my first tip. If you want to go to the catacombs, when you come back to Paris, please do come back to Paris. We miss you. Well, if you don't have a ticket, you'll be stuck waiting in line. And by waiting in line, I mean waiting in line like 2 hours, 2 hours and a half, up to 3 hours. So it's always good to book your ticket and book your ticket with a guide. It's always
good. So it's actually one of the places that is excellent to be with a guide, because you can see the line and you can go straight to the entrance and getting down. So it's okay. So it's one of our good places to share. So let's go there. So let's Charlotte.
All right. So because I've prepared a little presentation for you guys.
Awesome.
Let me know, because there's a few seconds between when I have my picture on my screen and when you guys will have my picture on your screen. So if you feel like I went too fast on the picture, just let me know and I can.
Of course.
I'll go back.
You can put it full screen, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Up, there you go.
Perfect. Okay, so what are we looking at?
All right, so I'm showing you a map of Paris, so you have an idea where the catacombs are located. So you can recognize, I assume, a few landmarks in Paris. In the north, you have the Sacré-Cœur in Montmartre around here, the Louvre Museum right there in the center, the island where Notre Dame Cathedral is. The catacombs are precisely right here where my little mouth is, in the 14th district. Okay. I don't know if you often go to that district, Mary.
Not really. I mean, I know there is the cemetery Montparnasse and the catacombs, but for landmarks, I don't think there is
Nah,
much more than that, right?
no,
So,
but beside the catacombs, I have nothing to do. So I
okay.
apologize if anyone watching us is living in that district. Sorry, it's boring, but that's the only good thing. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit to give you an idea what's around. So here are the catacombs.
Okay.
It is located in a square called d'Enfer Rochereau. That's the nearest metro station. So we recognize here the Luxembourg Garden. So it's located south of the garden where you have Saint-Germain-des-Prés around here. And then you can recognize the Pantheon, so the Latin Quarter with the Sorbonne University.
Sure.
Then you have Val de Grâce. Remember that name because I will mention it later.
What is Val de Grâce? Is it an hospital, right?
Yeah, it used to be a military hospital.
Military hospital. Okay.
Yeah. So I will mention that at some point. And so that's pretty much where it is.
Okay.
So the sad thing is we won't have enough time to cover everything we usually discuss when we do the tour in the catacombs. So I have decided to share with you what the things I like the most or my favorite stories to tell.
Okay. Yeah.
And if you have any question. I mean,
yeah, I would love to have a lot of anecdotes, to share with, my friends after that. So yeah, please.
To give you an idea, we will talk about quarries. And then I'm going to show you a sculpture that's located in a private part that you don't have access to unless you go with a guide. I will tell you about nasty cemeteries and bones, of course. And I will tell you also some myths and legends running in the catacombs.
Okay, yeah, that would be great.
So I got, see, that's the entrance. So we enter through that little door and into a little pavilion, and that's just one, like maybe 10% of the queue.
Oh,
so
really?
Okay. Please book your ticket ahead.
Okay.
Because then you'll have like a scheduled time where you can show up, but you can be stuck waiting in line.
Perfect. So
really
you will go straight because you're a guide, so you can just like skip.
Yeah, I'm being like,
you can go.
Sorry, loser.
Let's go directly.
All right. So here's the map of the site. So Catacombs of Paris. See, d'Enfer Rochereau, that's the square where it is located. And the site is divided into two parts. Okay. The first one is the one that where is my mouse? Oh, there you go. There it is. Can you see my little mouse on the screen?
Yeah, we can see it. So, okay. So you're showing us the yellow line?
Right? Yes, now? Exactly. That's the first part dedicated to the quarries. Okay. When people think about the catacombs, they think about the catacombs is, beyond the bones. So there's a quarries part that we need to talk about, because if you want to fully understand the catacombs, we have to talk about the quarries. Okay, so when we talk about we will talk about the quarries, but yeah, I heard that all the stone that is in the buildings in Paris, it's all coming from the soil of Paris. Exactly. Yep. Okay. Yep. So we have the first part is the quarries part. I'm losing my mouse. She's doing her tour by herself. And then at the bottom of the map, you can see it's more curvy. That's the part with the bones. Oh, okay. So next picture. So that's showing you it's the layers, in a way, of underground of Paris. So we go down 20 meters deep, which is, I think, 65 feet. So we go below the sewers and pipe system, below the metro. Another tip, so we use stairs to go down. There's about over 200 stairs to go down, and around 100 to go back up. There is no elevators, so it can be tricky if you're disabled or you have reduced mobility. So that's also one thing you need to take into account if you're planning on going to the catacombs. Yeah, it's true, and it's a staircase that is like spinning. Like, yeah. So, yeah. And also, if you're claustrophobic, might not be the best. The best idea. Okay. All right. So first, as I told you, I want to talk about the quarries. Don't worry, we won't go deep into geology. A, because we won't have time, and B, because I am not an expert at all. So it's going to be like brief. I mean, I love stones, but not that much. So yeah. So when we go down, we actually go back like 45, 48 million years ago. We travel back in time at a time where, of course, the city did not exist. Paris and its area were covered by a tropical sea, and dozens of meters of sediments accumulated over the century, forming a limestone deposit. That's what we have on the orange part. And it's actually a high quality limestone. It's called la pierre de Paris, Paris stone. And the geologists, they refer to that time, like 48 million years ago, to the Lutetian period. I'm pretty sure you've heard the word Lutetia, Marie. It's the
Lutetia is the ancient name of Paris. Lutetia.
Exactly, that's what it is. So as you can see, that's a map of Paris, and you can spot different kind of quarries in Paris because we have limestone, but we also have gypsum. That's the yellow part. So gypsum, you use it for plaster, for instance. Montmartre, you know, where you have the Basilica, there are gypsum quarries underneath. In Belleville as well, you have some in the south. We have clay quarries as well that you can use for bricks or tiles. But as you can see, the biggest one is the quarries limestone, because limestone, well, supplied most of the building stone that you have in Paris. So the limestone exploration started as soon as the Roman antiquity. The Romans took over France 1st century before Christ. And at first, the quarries were outside. They were located along the Bièvre River. I'm going to switch back to that one, but the Bièvre, it is that river right here. I'm showing you with my little mouse. It does not exist anymore, but it ran into what is now the 13th district and the 5th district. So at that time, limestone was kind of expensive, so you would only use it to build public monuments, like temples or the Forum, the amphitheater, the arena that you have in the 5th district in Paris.
The arena
Exactly. So they used the Paris stone. You have the steam bath as well that you can visit when you go to the Cluny Museum about the Middle Age. But starting from the 12th century, while the city expanded, a lot of religious communities settled in. They built churches. 1163, we start the construction of Notre Dame Cathedral. Late 12th century, the Louvre Fortress, the Philippe Auguste City Wall. So demand got higher. And they could not keep on, exploiting on the outside because they would waste, like agricultural land or gardens. So they decided to go underground. They went, I'm going to show that map again. So these are the little dots, the black dot, that's where we are. But 12th century, that was way, way outside of Paris. So the quarries extended and, expanded and expanded until it reached its maximum in the 18th century. Now, I'm showing you, that's Montmartre, and that's an entrance of a quarry. So you see, you go and you go down.
Yeah, we can see on your picture a little windmill on the top, right?
Yes.
So it's Montmartre.
That's Montmartre. So, but that's a gypsum quarries. So to give you an idea, this is what the quarry situation is currently in Paris. So it's mostly in the south. So again, it is only 10% of the surface. And until the 18th century, whenever you are done exploiting a quarry, you close it, and then you move on to the next one, and you completely forget about the previous one. And the people building on the outside, well, would do too, because most of those quarries were, at some point it was outside of Paris, underneath agricultural land or garden, so they completely forgot about it. And of course, as you can imagine, a lot of streets collapsed, building collapsed. That one, it's in Malakoff. Malakoff, it's a city right outside of Paris in the south. I think it was 1929 or 1939.
It's crazy.
I don't remember, but
they just forgot about it. Like they didn't thought that holes were all over there. And
because at first it was outside of Paris, and then they completely forgot about it. And as the city, expanded, well, they needed to build more buildings, but they completely forgot. I'm going to show you another one. That's in the 19th century. There was one in 1774 around what is now the Saint-Michel neighborhood. The building collapsed, but on 25 meters down and 300 meters long.
Okay.
That's pretty impressive. So in 1777, Louis XVI, you know, the beheaded one, decided to create an organization that would be in charge of, finding all the abandoned quarries, drawing maps, and secure everything. It is called the Inspection Générale des Carrières. So if I translate, it's the Quarries General Inspection. We will call it the IGC. So the first man in charge was that guy, Charles Axel Guillemot. Okay. And actually, before I forget, even though after the creation of the IGC, there were more buildings collapsing, and, you know, Parisians started to panic. So they decided to forbid the exploitation in 1813. So they went underground from the 12th century to the 19th century. So Charles Axel Guillemot, so he was in charge of the IGC. So basically what they would do, they would go underground. See on that picture, you see how they like fatten in a way. The walls are a little bit more thick. They thicken the wall, so they're a bit stronger to support what's above. They also clean the quarries. On that one, they did kind of like a random consolidation work.
Okay, so just 1 minute here. Can you tell us, so how high is that? Or I mean, I don't really. So is it just like the size of a man, right? Not very.
That one, if you look, so that's not my picture. There's Heather Monroe, who took the picture. But if you look in the center, we can see the legs of a man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's like twice.
Maybe like 2 meters high.
Yeah. Okay.
But like that one, to give you an idea. Yeah. When we first enter the site, for about 5 minutes, we are walking through that long corridor. Mm-hmm. It is called a survey alley. So that corridor was dug by the IGC. It does not look like what the the galleries of the quarries were like. That one is much more comfortable for us to walk through. So it's about 2 meters high, and it had to be wide enough so you can go through with a wheelbarrow. But in the quarry system, the galleries are much lower. So, so we enter that long corridor for about 5 minutes, and you'll run into a few details. So all through the quarry system and all through the tour, you can find those little plaques. They're actually signature of a confrontation work. So to give you, I'm going to decode them. If you look on that one, there's an R. The R is the initial of the worker who did the consolidation on that specific spot. So it was Mr. Roberts. And it was the first consolidation in 1879. If you look on that one underneath, in 1847, Mr. J did the fifth stabilization on that spot. And that one, if you look, 1777, remember that's when they created the IGC. So it's one of the very first consolidation, but it's actually the 29th. And it was done by Mr. J, which is Guillemot.
Ah, okay. So the same guy, which is Guillemot.
Yeah. And so they're all over the quarry system.
That's
and again, they're still working currently. They still go down to secure everything. So every now and then you'll find new plaques. Mm-hmm. You also have street name. That's pretty cool, because the server alley, they're seen as the lining of Paris. Basically, they follow the same route as the street on the outside. It's the underground version of Paris. So you can't. And you want to know where you are? I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying. So you can't really be lost, even if you're underground. You know exactly where you are. Like it's written on every tunnel.
Not on every corner, but every now and then you'll have street name. So the workers know where they are in Paris. So if you look on the right one, they have like random details. They don't have a street number, because until like I think for the 1750s, you wouldn't have street number in Paris. And so when you wanted to give direction or meet me at that address, you will give detailed, like on that one, meet me near the train track. So sometimes they use that old fashioned way of knowing where you are in Paris.
Okay.
And then we keep walking. I don't know if you've noticed on the first picture I showed you of the long alley. I can go back. But I don't know if you can tell, on the ceiling, there's black paint.
Yeah, what is that?
And I'm going to zoom in. It is what they call the ficelle, which means string. It is the lifeline. When the catacombs first opened to public in 1809, at that time, it was like private opening. You had to make a booking. It wasn't open to everyone. The site was still connected to the whole quarry system, which is around 300 kilometers. So it's a maze. So if you take a wrong turn, you get lost and you never come out. So they painted that black line on the ceiling from the start of the site all the way to the end.
But so do they have, at the time, we imagine that you don't have like a black light or anything. I mean, what can you do? You just having your lantern?
You had candles.
Candles.
You know, I was surprised that until 1970s, they wouldn't have electric light down there. So still 1970s, you would use a candle, and the only lit up spot that you would have would be the ceiling. So that's why it's painted on the ceiling.
I see. Okay.
No, it's all electric, but they still kept it, which I think it's cool.
And so this line, you can see it when you do the catacomb tour. You can actually see some parts with this line.
Like on the well, sometimes a little bit erased, like on that picture, but you'll see on other pictures it's all the way.
Okay, that's good. So we can't be lost even if we are in a...
No, it's impossible, because they isolated the sites from the rest of the quarries. They built like 10 meters white wall, so it's impossible to get lost. There's only one way to go.
Good. That's
so
good.
you will be fine.
I will be fine. That's good. Okay.
I think that's why they shut down the site in the 1830s, because many people would get lost. So that's when they decided to isolate it.
Really? So you had really people getting lost in the catacombs before that? Okay.
That's why. And they also have kind of like turnstiles when they would count how many people would get in and how many people would get out, so they knew if someone got lost.
Okay. Great. Okay. So that was
all right. So now we enter a place that is called l'atelier, which means workshop. It's not an actual workshop, it's a reproduction of a workshop. They want to show you how the exploration took place. A lot of galleries were destroyed by the IGC. So again, they went on from the 12th century to the 19th century, and the workers had to find a way to dig out stone without having, the quarries collapsing on top of them. So they had two techniques. The first one, it is called the turn pillar, or the abandoned pillar, which is what you see. So it's a limestone pillar. What they would do is they would dig as much, limestone as possible without having the ceiling collapsing on top of them, thanks to these pillars. And then they would move on to the next quarries. But as you can imagine, by doing so, they would leave limestone behind. So we'd be wasting, because that's your material. So from the 16th century, they changed technique, and they started to use the armed pillar technique. Well, basically, the workers would pile up huge block of stone on top of each other until they reached the ceiling.
Yeah.
And then what they would do, they would do what we call ag, which is dry masonry. So between the pillars, they would build a stone wall by using, remain of cut stone, things that you cannot really sell. So the wall would support the pillars, and then they would reinforce the wall and the pillars by filling, the empty space behind with more cut stone and dirt.
Okay.
That's
yes,
the second
basically recycling like what you don't really use and making something out of it.
Exactly. And actually, it turns out that technique was more efficient than the first one. And you'll see in the bones part of the catacombs, they use that technique for the setting of the bones.
Okay, so we cannot wait to see some bones.
Yes.
But I heard there's so many, so
many bones. That's all it is. It's just bones. So now, well, I want to tell you just a little bit about the quarrymen because, well, I want to tell you about the people, who haunted the place. And, well, they're the ones who shaped, the quarries we're in when we visit the catacombs. So I thought it was important to talk about the quarrymen.
Sure.
So it's actually a pretty difficult job. It is mostly for immigrants or convicts or people who didn't find anything else to do.
Okay.
The good thing about being a quarryman is that you are guaranteed to work all year long, because unlike people working on the surface, well, your job can be interrupted because of the weather, change of the season. But here, you're fine. It's always 14 Celsius degree. I don't know that in Fahrenheit, but it's chill.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's in between. Yeah, it's tempered, like it's chill. It's actually the perfect temperature for wine. I mean, to keep wine, and temperature. I think that's just the perfect.
Hey, you make a good point because I'll talk about alcohol in quarries later.
Of course.
Well, we can see where your interests are. And also the good thing when you're a quarryman is that you work all year long because you always need stone to build Paris. But it's pretty difficult. You can work to 14 to 17 hours a day without going back up to the surface. You see it like right now in the picture, they extracting the stone. When you extract a stone, it's not higher than 1 meter, so you always have to lay down or crouch, so eventually you'll get joint pain or rheumatism.
Yeah,
it is pretty dark. See on the right,
the dust. No, I mean it's like a mine, so all the dust from the stone also for your
it's
lungs.
really bad for the lungs, for you sight as well, because it's dark and all you need is all you have is a candle, so eventually you can end up being blind. A lot of infection as well, because you have all the cesspool from the sewers that drip from the surface all the way to the gallery system, with nasty bacteria. So they get infection, a lot of death, and daily injuries. It's a really dangerous job because you're carrying huge block of limestone, so they can crush you. You can have the ceiling of the quarries collapsing on top of you. And they didn't have any, thing to relieve their pain. So they had many superstition. For instance, what they would do, they would mix garlic and camphor in a little bag that they would carry around the neck, because apparently camphor had many therapeutic virtues.
So you say garlic and camphor, and they put that just there, but it might stink. I mean, it's just horrible, no? Having garlic just there.
Yeah, maybe it chased the vampires away. I don't know. Who knows what's around the quarries?
Yeah, against the vampire, that's working for sure.
And I don't know if you do that, but when I have really bad headache, I rub, oil in my temples and nose.
Yeah, but normally it's like more like a mint oil or something, right? Yeah.
But they would do that with eau de vie, or aromatic wine.
Okay, so putting a bit of wine just there.
Here or there.
Okay, that's a good idea. We'll try that.
Wine again. And they will also draw anchors, like from the ship all the way in the quarries.
Okay.
As like a protection. It would protect them, protect also the quarry, prevent it from collapsing on top of you.
So it was like a superstitious thing. So having this,
for the anchors, it's related to a martyr called Clement I. He was a pope in 1st century after Christ, and he was forced to work in quarries, and then eventually they throw him in the ocean with the anchor around his neck, so he died. And he's a martyr that workers relate to.
Okay, very interesting. Well, thank you for presenting all of that from the workers. Yeah, they seems to be quite tough men, huh?
Well, you have to.
Okay, that's great.
All right, so now we keep walking, and that's when we're getting to the private part. That's one of my favorite part of the catacombs. It used to be part of the very first, site, but now it's completely private. The only way that you can access that part is if you go down with a guide. So what you can see is called the sculpture of Port-Mahon. So it's P-O-R-T and then M-A-H-O-N. Port-Mahon. It's the main city of the Minorca Island in the Balearics. And those sculptures were done by one of the workers of the IGC. He was working of a consolidation of a quarry, and during his free time, he would go to another quarry to sculpt those buildings.
That's really beautiful. So it was not for anything, just for himself.
No, like just for fun. Art? Exactly. He used to be a soldier in the army of Louis XV, and at some point he got captured by the English, sent to jail, and so that's the what he would see from his cell. So it's all done by memory. So it's not really accurate because it's done by memory.
Okay, so it's like a postcard, like like later on of what he was seeing from. Okay, that's.
I'm trying to zoom in, but it's pretty detailed. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, very, very beautiful.
What's going on? Where am I? Voila.
We're back to.
I got that one too. He also did the flint mosaic that you have on the floor.
Wow.
But sadly, one day he tried to build a staircase that would connect, these two galleries. The whole thing collapsed on top of him and he died.
No, he died there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sad.
So I don't know if he thought that he was finished or if he wanted to keep working on the sculpture, but we'll never know. And Charles-Axel Guillemot, remember the man in charge of the IGC, was so moved and so sad because of the death. So he decided to put up a plaque to honor the guy.
That's so it says. So that's a plaque that is just where his work is. So that's in the same room?
Yeah. There's two rooms, and the very first one, I think you see that sculpture, I think, and you have the plaque on the side.
I see. It's really beautiful.
It is. It's really, really cool. And there's no one. That's the thing that guides like when they work.
Yes, exactly. So that's only for when you're on private tour with a guide.
Yeah. You had to make a booking first, and you cannot go on your own because it's locked. So you have to have someone working in the security to open.
That's really nice.
So that was his name, Descure, aka Beau Séjour. So it started in 1777 and finished when he died in 1782. All right, so now we are in the lobby. Not yet. So before seeing bones, well, I want to tell you how the whole thing started. So I'm gonna show you. You will see actually a lot of obelisks, like those all through the ossuary. It's a Freemason symbol. And black and white are the colors of grief for the Freemason. But before we go, here's a map of Paris. So it dates back from the 14th century. So maybe you recognize here the left bank. So you have the Latin Quarter there. We can see the cathedral right here. There you have La Bastille, the Marais neighborhood. You can see the Louvre fortress also right there.
Oh, yeah.
It has changed. And here, there's a little brown square. I'm going to zoom in. There it is. So this is the Saint Innocent Cemetery right here.
Cemetery, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, it does not exist anymore. We'll see why, but today, that's what you see. It's the Saint Innocent Fountain. It is located in a neighborhood called Châtelet-Léal. I don't know if you guys ever been to Châtelet-Léal. There's a big mall, a lot of bars, restaurants, the worst metro station on earth. That's Châtelet-Léal.
True, Châtelet. And I told that to Bertrand in my last video as well. So
that when you want to make a connection, you do a detour so you don't have to go through Châtelet-Léal. Yes, there's just pee everywhere. And so that spot, so it's where, so we're really in the center of Paris. It's right next to the Louvre Museum. It was used as a burial spot ever since the 5th century. And in the 12th century, you have to imagine that it was outside Paris, and it was open. There was no wall to enclose it. It was completely open, and it was located right next to a market that was called the Champeau Market, which gave birth to the Halles Market. Halles is Halles, there's the name Châtelet
Okay.
Léal. So you have to imagine like these two being close to each other. So you would have merchants wandering, around the cemetery, prostitutes, maid linen, animals, smugglers, thieves, public rider, all those together. It was actually a current thing in the Middle Ages to have, the dead ones mingle with the living ones.
Okay.
And then eventually, I'm going to show you another picture of the cemetery. So you see it's right next to buildings. Eventually, in the late 12th century, so 1190, a king called Philippe Auguste, he's the one who built the Louvre fortress. Well, he built a city wall to protect Paris, and that city wall would also delimit the city, and he included the cemetery within Paris. So that's when it became a Parisian cemetery. And he also built walls that would surround the cemetery. So how does it work if you want to get buried in the Saint Innocent Cemetery? I'll note that there were 30 churches using that cemetery. So if
30,
you are rich,
say how many? 30 churches?
Yeah, around 30. Yeah.
Wow. So
just in that cemetery.
Thousand, like oh, you can imagine.
Oh, that's more. You'll see that. Okay. But so yeah, if you're rich, well, you can be buried in a crypt of a church, or you'll get to have your own little individual sepulture. But if you're, like me, well, you get to be buried in a mass burial pit.
Okay.
So how does that work? Well, you open a first pit. You can put around 1,500 bodies in one pit. And as the pit is being filled, it is open. So you fill the pit, you close it, and then you open a second one. 5,000 and 1,500 bodies later, you close it, open a third one, and on and on and on until
so you say that it's basically so always open until it's full, and then we close. But the rest of the time, like there is always one that is open with bodies just filling it.
Bodies coming in, and then when it's closed up, we need a new one, so they open a second one. And and at some point, actually through history, there were like waves of people being buried in a cemetery. For instance, the plague in the early 15th century, you had 50,000 people dying in 5 weeks. So you have all of those, being brought in the cemetery. Wow. It takes about a century for the cemetery to be full. So we're at the end of the 14th century, and they decided to build charnel houses. I'm going to show you another picture, but basically little shacks running along the walls of the cemetery kind of look like a cloister. So you had a gallery where you can just wander around, and in the rooftop, they will stack up the bones.
That's so weird. So they were stocking the skulls and bones like that.
Yeah, because when the cemetery is full, but you still have people, getting buried. So what they said, well, okay, we assume that the bodies in the first pit are sufficiently decomposed. So we'll open the very first pit, remove the bone, stack them in the charnel houses, and then 1,500 bodies. They close the very first pit, move to the very second one, remove the bone, stack them in the charnel houses, and it goes on and on and on for 500 years.
Wow, 500
years. And the funny thing is that the church will make a lot of money with all those burials because you have to pay a fee when you want to get buried. And they justify the fact of leaving a body only a few weeks after the burial and then put it in the charnel houses by saying that the ground of the Saint Innocent Cemetery was magical because it could decompose a body in only 9 days.
So in only 9 days, so you put a fresh body, someone just died, and just put it that, and in 9 days, that's it. There is nothing, just the bones.
Organic.
Bones. Okay.
Take that death.
Okay.
And so you have to so you talk about thousands of people being buried, which is actually way more. By the end of the 18th century, we estimate about 2 million Parisians buried in that cemetery alone. 2 million Parisians. And when you remove bones, you leave the body fats in the ground. And so by the end of the 18th century, the ground has risen 3 meters, so 11 feet from decomposed flesh.
Wow.
Pretty nasty.
No, I can't imagine. So people were just walking on dead bodies, like
exactly. And the whole cemetery was, well, the whole neighborhood actually was nasty. A lot of infection. Can you imagine the smell?
No.
People, they were tossing their cesspool and their trash outside the window. So you had all the cesspool running in the gullies that would run along the wall of the cemetery. Quite nasty. And do you remember what was located right next to that cemetery?
Yeah, the markets, right? The food market.
So I'm showing you two maps. One is from the 1300 and the other one 1600. And you can see there's a lot of churches around the cemetery, and the brown parts are the different parts of the market. You would have the biggest market in Paris right next to the biggest cemetery in Paris. It was pretty nasty. A few kings actually tried to close that cemetery. Louis XV, Louis XVI, actually one of the first thing he did as a king was to close the cemetery. But
so
the
Louis,
church
Louis XVI, so Louis XVI, so the one who was after that killed during the revolution, right? So he decided to close the cemetery. So it was just something because of the health or hygienic or something, or is it?
Well, he tried to close it.
I tried to,
but the church refused.
Oh, the church wanted it. Okay.
Yeah. They're the one who managed to keep it open. And under the reign of Louis XV, they sent investigators to see how things were going at the cemetery. And they reported that meat would rotten before people's eyes. The milk would curdle. If you buy wine, you had to drink it quite quickly because it would turn into vinegar. There's another guy, a merchant that would sell tapestry. And he complained that the colors of the tapestry would change if the tapestry were displayed for too long in the cemeteries. One guy selling perfume could not sell his products because the smell of the cemetery was too overwhelming.
But at the same time, you do good business having perfume just near a cemetery. I mean, you're probably selling more bottle of perfume, but yeah, I get it. So it was very nasty, and they had to remove it. But the church didn't want that to be removed. Okay. So
until 1780.
So because now it's not there anymore. So what happened?
Well, 1780, May 30, 1780, there's the building located right next to a mass burial pit. That building had a basement, and the wall of the basement caved in. Hundreds of bodies coming in that building.
Okay.
And so the king said, well, enough of it. This is public health issue. I am closing the cemetery. I am not listening to the church protestation. 1780, it is now illegal to bury inside the city. So they closed the cemetery.
So yeah, it's not just this specific one. It's all the cemeteries in Paris.
Yes, that closed. So not all at once. Took a few years, but they shut down all the cemeteries. Okay. After that, they opened like the cemetery of Père Lachaise, Montmartre, Montparnasse.
Because Père Lachaise was outside of Paris at the time.
Outside of Paris, yeah. In 1804, it was outside of Paris, exactly.
That makes sense.
And so, there was wondering, okay, what do we do with all of those bones? And so, see, 1780, it's at the same time when they're, going down to rediscover the quarries, consolidate everything. So they decided to move all the bones in the quarry.
Oh, that's okay. So they were thinking, I mean, we have bones, we have quarries,
we have space. There you go. And see, and that's how the history of the Parisian quarries meet the history of the Parisian cemeteries to become the catacombs.
Okay.
So they started by moving the bones of the Saint Innocent Cemetery because it was the biggest one. So they picked a quarry that was completely abandoned. It was called Tombe Issoire. It was outside of Paris, quite easy to access to. So what they did, the ceremonial was the same at night. It was at night because they wanted to avoid, any hostility or, hostile reaction from Parisians or members of the church. So every night you would have carts loaded with bones, a Christian escort, priest torches, black drape, chant something like really, really solemn, and then they get to the ventilation shaft on the quarries, and they just toss everything down the shaft. So they would just all part like this.
So we have so we can imagine that maybe we have some holes there and there, and just like putting that into that. So they do something really religious, like in the streets, but when they arrive, they just put them like that. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. They used the shaft for ventilation that they would have in the quarries, and sometimes you have holes to extract the stone as well.
Okay.
And then you would have workers from the IGC underground that would collect the bones and then toss them in the corner of a quarry.
Okay.
But it was pretty messy.
So what was the plan? Like, what was the plan to let them like that, or did they already thought about maybe?
No. At first it was just it was all taken care of by Charles Axel Guillemot. But the plan at first was just to, leave the bone down the quarries.
And the people in the quarries, they were okay with that, like receiving the bones? I mean, I assume that some parts were already maybe abandoned.
That quarry, Tombissoir, that's the name of the quarry where the catacombs are, was completely abandoned.
Completely abandoned, so no workers, so they didn't mind having bones coming. No.
Well, the workers that were there were the workers from the IGC that were in charge of collecting all the bones. Okay. So they started in 1785. It took actually 6 months to move all the bones from the St. Innocent Cemetery. And then they did other transfers after the French Revolution, 1840s, 1850s, because sometimes when you do, construction work in city, you find forgotten cemeteries. And it became the official ossuary of Paris in 1786. And then, soon after, they named it the Catacombs. Okay. After the Rome Catacombs.
So they stopped that at this time, like when it was like the official ossuary, but then after that, I mean, there is no, like today, for example, there is no one finishing in the catacombs, right? I mean, it's
what do you mean, like putting bones in the catacombs?
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, we're not doing that anymore. We're not putting
no. Well, there are other bones, like underneath Père Lachaise, they have an empty space where they stack bones eventually, but they don't transfer bones anymore.
Yeah. So yeah, it was for long years, but at one point they say, okay, now it's that's
now
it.
It's over.
Now it's over. We let the bones.
We have enough bones as it is. That's enough.
It was just to make some space to empty the cemeteries that were in Paris.
Yeah. And because like they were religious cemeteries and people, they had like a Christian burial and they wanted to have a Christian burial somewhere else. That's why you had all those, Christian escorts.
Of course. Okay. But then this land, was not holy, was not sacred. So it was weird for the people imagining that their ancestors were buried in just like an empty spot with thousands and thousands, millions of other people. So yeah, that must be weird at the time.
Yeah, it can be strange for the family.
But is there anyone famous among those people? Do we know if we have? Yeah, we do have.
We don't know where they are, but the writer Rabelais, Jules Ardois-Mansart is one of an architect of Versailles. What else? Danton, Robespierre.
Really?
You also have.
They're there? Wow.
Yeah. Because during the French Revolution, they buried the dead directly in the catacombs.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them. They were either tossed in the cemetery of La Madeleine next to Concord Square, where they had the guillotine, and sometimes they would toss them directly in the catacombs. Who else is there? With the 16th sister, that was tough to say, Madame Elisabeth and Jean de La Fontaine, even though officially it is not there, but
because I mean, Jean de La Fontaine, I think there is a tomb, Jean de La Fontaine in Père Lachaise.
Père Lachaise, yeah.
It's empty.
They moved him in 1817 because the cemetery Père Lachaise was, it was the first time that you had a cemetery without any official religion. So it did not have a big success. So they decided to move 4 celebrities in 1817 as the marketing, to make the cemetery more valuable. So officially he's in the Père Lachaise cemetery, but he's not.
Okay. Oh, actually, I
Yeah.
was thinking about that for some people that are watching us right now. If you're interested in a live in the Cemetery Palaces, that could be a great video to do. I think maybe later. So if you're interested in just like following us in the Cemetery Palaces with all the stories of famous people, Oscar Wilde, Jim Morrison, those and much more, you can put that on comments, and so we're gonna think about it for our next video. Okay,
Because
so
they open the cemeteries really soon, right? Because it's considered as a park.
yeah, now the parks and the cemetery will open in Paris, so we are very excited. We're gonna rediscover our city now after the lockdown. So
Is
yeah,
it June the 2nd or earlier?
next
I didn't follow the news.
week we are getting out in the parks. So
Yeah.
exciting. Okay, so what more?
All right. So now let me introduce you to our man Ericard de Thury.
Mhm.
I wrote down his name because it's kind of tricky. So he was the second main director of the IGC, and he decided to make the catacombs a tourist attraction.
Oh, really?
That's him. That's him who decided to rearrange all the bones in an artistic way. See, like
Oh,
so, it was open to everyone, like it is now. So what we see today is Ericard de Thury's work.
so the man was what? I mean, he was a museum guy. He was.
No,
I
no,
mean,
he was the like Charles Axel Guillemot, the man in charge of the IGC. He was the second man in charge.
but he had the idea to make it an attraction. So he had some kind of business.
Maybe it was a little morbid.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, but that's a lot of work. I mean, to justify that much work to rearrange all the bones, I mean, that's it probably had support from Paris city, I assume, or
Even because they say, okay, you're gonna pay, so
yeah, maybe that's a weird way of making money, like showing bones.
because he did not only want to. Actually, it's an old tradition from the Middle Ages to display the dead ones to remember them. And actually, at first, it was not to make money, not at all. I was saying that as a joke, but so they rearranged everything under his direction. Well, he wanted the site to be as solemn as a mausoleum,
Hmm.
but he also wanted it to be educational. Like, in the style of the cabinets of curiosities, he
Hmm.
opened two cabinets. One, it was the cabinets of mineralogy, where they displayed rocks, sediments, so the Parisian could come and learn about the geology
Mhm.
of their city, and another one about pathology, where they would show different kind of bones illness.
Okay, so the guy was really into the education of people, and he want. So this place he made was not just for like fun, seeing bones, but also to explain things to
Yeah.
the Parisian.
Yeah,
Okay.
which you still have that spirit actually in the catacombs. Last time I went, they had an exhibit about the cemetery that they found a couple years ago, in Monoprix,
Yeah, I heard.
next
Yeah.
to where we live.
Hmm.
And so they would, they would show pictures, and they analyze the bones, how old they were, are they men, women, did they end up in the cemetery? So it was actually quite interesting. So it's really something, not only looking at bones, but you also learn a lot.
So it's still today. It's true. There is always
Mm.
education. Yeah, also about the quarries, about everything. So it's true that it's a mix of having like a little chill, like seeing all the bones, but all at the same time learning more about the history of Paris.
Mm.
And yeah,
Yeah, you've seen it as a museum, which is now it's one of the 14 museums of Paris. And
sure.
that's what they wanted. It was like a walking, like yeah, chilly, scary museum.
Hmm.
And so see, so I'm showing you pictures of the bones, and see how they use the same technique of the quarrymen. You know how they would do the dry masonry? It is the same. You have on the outside a really nice, like bone wall. They're all really clean, lined up with skulls, and then in the back, they fill the empty spaces with more bone, but all
Yeah,
messed up.
yeah, some more broken. So yeah, so they just put up front the best pieces
Yeah,
to
yeah. And
them.
every now and then they will redo the wall, because sometimes the bones on the outside are damaged. So they destroy a specific part. It takes 5 days to reconstruct everything, and they pick up the nicest bones.
Hmm. Okay. I'm just telling you that apparently some of the people watching us right now are quite interested in the Père Lachaise. So
That's
we have to think
cool.
about that for our next adventure together.
That's a
Okay.
cool thing, and it's quiet and it's not crowded. It's a really
Okay.
cool place.
Yeah, I love this door. It's very impressive. It's it's like entering in a temple or something.
Yeah.
The
Well,
Masons.
that's what he wanted too, like something like mausoleum, and he created different spaces, and some of the spaces they have like antiquity inspired name, like like the Sacelum crypt, like
Okay.
a show off. So that's when you enter the actual catacombs. So you have that little sentence that say arrête, c'est ici l'empire de la mort. So stop, here is the empire of death. And then what you see is bones.
Yeah.
So that's a bone wall. So they use only long bones like femurs and tibias.
Yeah.
And then they will. It's nice if you're a dog, though. But yeah.
Yeah. So you need the thicker bones are from the legs, right? So
Yeah, exactly. And then they set up the skulls to visually break up the bones.
yeah, to have just a little nice line. Oh yeah, that's very
Yeah,
artistic.
that's really cool. So it was all done by the workers of the IGC. So like little waves. Sometimes you see hearts. It's really cool. You have crosses, like stone crosses, but also skull crosses. That's
Okay.
a way for the Ricard de Thury to show his religious fervor and to relate to the Christian origin of the catacombs.
And people were, I mean, people were okay with that. Like it was like in the time when they were doing that and kind of readjusting the bones and stuff. I mean, when the people saw that, they were okay. They were thinking it was pretty, or were they shocked? Was it kind of scandalous? Like what was the reaction?
Good question. I think it depends on who you are, but
Yeah.
well, at that time they had a thing for death.
Yeah, they had this romantic, morbid.
Yeah,
Yeah, true. Okay.
exactly. Well, like the cemetery Père Lachaise, you can like, why would you want to wander around the cemetery? But
Mm,
actually you learn a lot about life while you learn about death.
sure. Okay.
Um, oh yeah, I like that picture because it sums up the site. That's all that you see. Long corridor with bones and bones and bones. The whole site looks like that.
Wow.
So
And when
every
you
now and then,
Yeah,
yeah.
when you were there, like Charlotte, tell us more about. I mean, what is the feeling when you are actually there? Like when you're walking in between those skulls. Like personally, what
At
Charlotte?
first, it's creepy because they're bones, and you know that you're looking at a person that at some point that skull was moving, so it's creepy. But personally, after a while, you're like, oh, bones. It's a bit shocking at first, but after 30 minutes of bones, you get used to it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's very quiet, I assume, or
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, no, it's really, really quiet. So you feel like you're somewhere else.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
you
it's
don't, you don't, you just forget that you're in Paris there. I mean, so
mm,
different from anything, and yeah, it's interesting.
especially during the heat. That's a really cool thing to do during the heat because, well, it's like, dude, it's mild. It's like 14 Celsius degrees. So it's really relaxing. I like it a lot.
Okay.
And it's quiet. And it's not that crowded, actually.
Not that crowded. Okay.
Now, because I think they only allowed 52 people at once on the site. That's why the queue is so long.
Ah, yeah, because not a lot of
It's
people.
not like open door.
And also, they might be afraid that maybe people will touch or maybe steal one of the
Of the bone. Some people used to, and you have a warning sign at the entrance: do not steal the bones. Do not use flash when you take pictures because it damages the bones. And at the end, when you get out, they will look at your purse to make sure you're not stealing anything.
Really, they're gonna look down your bag to see if there's a skull or a bone.
Yeah, because some people used to steal the bones, so and they feel like it's a little cursy, like you're not really cool to do that because you're stealing a person in a way.
So can you tell us, but just in between us, like, did you?
No, no, no. Because the first time I went, they were already checking the bags. So
Okay.
no, and I would be too, like the game. What is it called? Like you have like these wooden towers, and you have to pull out.
Yeah, everything can fall apart.
Yeah, and I would be scared of pulling one bone and everything falling out, and you're like, ooh, busted.
Okay,
so no,
we are not stealing the bones.
No, not officially. No. Okay. No, I'm kidding. No. I don't do that. All right. So there are other things, because there are bones, but there's more than bones. You will see a lot of plaques all through the sites, like that one. Those plaques tell you where the bones that you're looking at come from, what cemeteries they were buried in, and when they were moved. You also see those kind of plaques. So there are 88 of them, with quotes engraved in it. So they're all chosen by Ricard de Thury, the guy who rearranged the bones. They are quotes in Latin, Italian, and French, from antiquity to the 19th century, all genre, literature, philosophy, poetry, religion. Mm-hmm. And it's all quotes related to death, time passing by, human condition.
Okay, so it's like a little poetry in between the bones and the creepy side. So it's like giving a little bit of but at the same time, if you say that all the poetry is part of like a thematic of death, that might be a bit like heavy. But like you say, it's nice. It's kind of a good balance.
Like, well, it's it was supposed to be educational. Well, first it was a way to have the visitors slow down, because once you've seen the bone, well, people tend to just walk, and so now you have things to read, so you take your time, and then you think about death, how death is everywhere. It was like meditation. Mm-hmm. And also to distract you, because eventually there are piles of bones, well, it keeps you busy.
Okay.
That's quite nice. So now we get to a place called the La Fontaine de la Samaritaine, the Samaritan Fountain. The workers of the IGC found groundwater, and they made it into a basin, and then they arranged all the bones around. Mm-hmm. I'm going to show you some more. I'm sorry, some pictures are a little blurry.
It's fine.
I like this.
Wow.
And so the Samaritan Fountain, it relates to the Bible. The Samaritan woman, she went to draw water from Jacob's well. Jesus stood next to her, and he said, if you drink that water, you will always be thirsty. Drink the water I'm about to give you, and you'll never be thirsty again. So it's always related to the Christian origin of the catacombs. It is also known as the Lethe Fountain, Lethe, which is one of the fountain of hell in the Greek mythology. And the Lethe Fountain is the fountain of oblivion. But if you drink that fountain, you'll forget about your life, what brought you to hell.
So there is a lot of symbolic, like inside the catacombs. There is a lot of things related to religious, but also to mythology, to poetry. So you can feel that, I mean, it's educational, but it's like an experience. It's you go down and you will get out probably having another mind, another set of mind. So
that's why it's important to see beyond the bones, not just bones.
It's
way more.
It's like those experience where you're just getting inside something very deep to feel better after that, probably. So
you enjoy life more.
Exactly.
Now that you've faced death.
Mm-hmm.
Also, that's another picture of the fountain. There are 6 fountains actually in the quarry system. That one is called the Chartreuse Fountain. So Chartreuse, because of my French accent, it is Chartreuse. It's a fountain that was designed by Ricard de Thury, but it is located in an old quarry called the Chartreuse Quarry. Okay. So Chartreuse, it comes from Chartres. The Chartres monks, they settled in Paris in the 13th century. They were given an old castle by the King St. Louis, and they wanted to add more buildings to that castle. They wanted to build a church, a cloister. So they went down the quarry that was located underneath the castle, and they started to dig to extract the stone. And eventually, from the 17th century, those monks started to produce a liquor, an alcohol called la Chartreuse. I don't know if you ever drank that alcohol.
I never tried it, but I know what it is. I mean, is it green, or maybe I'm with the
No, it
absent?
is green because it's made of many herbs.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to have many, therapeutic values as well. Like if you drink, you'll have a long life.
Okay. Cool.
And,
Okay.
years gone by, the monastery was taken down during the French Revolution. We're on November the 3rd, 1793. There is a man called Philibert Asper. He's a gatekeeper at the Hospital Val de Grace, the one I told you about in the beginning of the tour. And, well, he knew that the monks, because, I forgot to tell you that, but eventually as the production increased, they set up the equipments and the bottles in the quarries underneath the domain. And Philibert Asper knew about that. So November the 3rd, 1793, he decided to go down and, get some bottles, free alcohol. Who doesn't like this?
He was going to steal the bottles.
Yeah, some of the bottles. Yeah. So he went down because in that hospital, you had a circus that would access a quarry. So he went down, didn't want anyone. And so he went down with a candle. And we assume that at some point, the flame extinguished, got lost, never came out.
Okay.
And he was found 11 years after by the workers of the IGC. 11 years.
Okay, so when you want to steal the wine from the monks, it's never a good idea.
No, it's not.
The karma, that's bad karma.
So try to guess how they identified the body, because after 11 years, it was just bones. So how do you think they identified him?
Yeah, so was he missing at the time? Like the people,
people realized that he was missing, but it was the terror during the French Revolution. They had other things. They started looking after him. Yeah. But at some point, they were like, okay, we got other things to do. So yeah.
Yeah, they had no idea he was actually going down in the quarries, right? Okay, so yeah, how they, maybe something, a knife or anything with his letters?
Close enough. Do you remember what he did for a living?
So he was in the hospital?
He was the gatekeeper. They found the key.
He had the keys on him?
Yeah, he had the keys on, and that's how they found him. That's how they recognized him.
Okay, of course.
So what they did, they found his body and they buried him on the spot where they found him. So you have a tombstone currently in the quarry system. So because it's in French, I'm going to translate: in loving memory of Philibert Asper, lost in this quarry November the 3rd, 1793, found 11 years after and buried on that same spot in April 1804. And Philibert Asper became the saint patron of the cataphiles. The cataphiles are people that are going illegally in the quarry system to explore them. And they do pilgrimage, actually, to see his tomb. They light up candles, they put flowers, and I really like that one. So that's the bottle of Chartreuse. And as you said, it is green. And someone left a little note to Philibert. So I'm going to translate because it's really funny. It says, "Cheers, Philibert. To cheer you up, know that the liquor of Chartres is not an elixir of long life. It has no rejuvenating virtue. It just, flip your mind upside down. We just get you drunk. That's basically all it does."
But I'm sure he will be very happy to know that people are drinking to his memory. And
exactly. And every November the 3rd, the day he disappeared, it's a Saint Philibert Asper.
So the guy became a great
legend.
Yeah, legend, but getting lost and dying in such a stupid way, but is now a legend. So that's great.
And I don't think he was, I recall one of my readings that he was not that far from the actual quarry where the bottles were. All right, so the next one, we're moving on. We're entering a place that is called the Sacellum Crypt. It is made of two elements. You have the Great Cross. The picture is really blurry, but that's the only one I could find. But I still wanted to give you an idea of the room. So you have that Great Cross and the Great Altar. It is not a real tomb. It's a pillar in disguise. A lot of monuments that you'll see in the catacombs are just confrontation pillars, but hidden.
Okay.
So it looks nicer.
To make them nice, they just added like a fake tomb.
Yeah. Oh yeah, everything that you see is fake. It's just to hide. Okay. So the inscription is in Latin, but now if you go down, you'll see it in French. So it says: "Endormis par la mort, ici sont nos ancêtres. which means asleep to death, here lay our ancestors, which is quite true because the bones that you'll see in that room are the very first bones that were moved.
Okay, the one from the Innocent Cemetery.
Exactly, put down in April 1786. So that's where Jean de La Fontaine is.
And it's funny how the Innocent, it's a Y or a I, like it's a mix of both. Probably
Yeah.
they were saying that with a Y.
I've never noticed that actually.
Yeah, probably the spelling change.
Maybe someone drew on it.
Or maybe someone just drew
on it. Because I don't recall seeing that spelling for innocent, even in old French.
Yeah, neither, but yeah, okay, that's interesting.
Now we're in a part that is called the sepulchral lamp. So the sepulchral lamp is a little basin that you see. It is the oldest artifact in the catacombs. It was designed by the workers who first came down to secure everything before the catacombs were created. What they would do, as you see on the picture, they would burn pea resin on the basin.
What is that? What is pea resin?
Résine de pois.
Like a pea.
Yeah, they will burn pea.
Okay.
P-E-A.
Yeah.
So, my accent.
Vegetable. Yeah. Okay. And so, and what was the idea with that? Just
because you want to have the air circulate in the corridors.
It's like incense, kind of.
No. You want to create a draft because the air can be quite rare underground, and with all the bones deposit, it can be a little nasty. So it might be difficult for the workers to breathe. So you want to create a draft to have the air circulate, and the best way to do so is to keep a fire burning.
I see. Okay, so it's really just a ventilation kind of system.
Exactly.
With the smell or anything, because it doesn't.
No.
The bones are dry, so okay.
No, they of course, because now they have like electric ventilation. They don't use that anymore, but they keep the artifacts.
Okay.
Because you also need to know when you're lacking oxygen, because if you're lacking oxygen, that means that you have to run out. If not, you will die. Which actually brings me to another one of the main legend running in the catacombs. It is called the legend of the Green Man or the Green Devil. So that legend started with a king called Robert the Pious. He built in the late 10th century a castle, the same castle the Chartres monks moved in. So it was located south of the Luxembourg Garden, so not too far from the catacombs. And eventually, Robert the Pious moved out, and smugglers and thieves settled in the castle. And at night, they would light up a fire to keep people away. And the smokes and the lights coming from the ruins of the castle made people believe that the devil was living there. And they call it the Vauvert devil, Vauvert, after the Latin name of the area that was Vallis Viridis. And vert is green in French, so they call it the green devil.
Okay.
And apparently the devil walked down the quarry located underneath the castle, and he has been wandering the quarry system ever since. So usually, if you see him, you'll see him at the corner of your eye. So it's green. He has horns. He's really, really quick.
Are you telling me that if I'm going down, I might see that in the quarry?
Yep.
Okay, no way. I'm never going there.
And if you do, that's not a good sign. That means that you will be found days, weeks, years after.
Okay.
But to be honest.
Yeah. So it's a legend that that still today people are telling, or
yeah. There's still people going down the quarry system, and sometimes they feel like there's someone behind them, and then they turn around and there's no one. So a lot of old cataphiles, they would pull pranks on the newers and taking them to a quarry where they might run into the green devil. I just noticed the eye on the butt.
Yeah, I was actually in that too. Okay, let's go to the next picture before we have some comments on that.
All right. Oh, that place is quite cool. It's called the well, I like it a lot. You'll see why. It's called the Gilbert Tomb. Again, it is not a real tomb. It's a pillar under the sky. It's an empty tomb, but it's a full structure, so there's no way of lying a body inside. Gilbert is the name of the poet whose poetry is engraved in the tomb. It's a quote from a poem called Adieu à la vie, farewell to life, that he wrote in 1780. And ironically, he died a couple months after writing that farewell to life.
Okay.
He was 29 years old. He fell off his horses. He got buried in a cemetery that was located in the 5th district around the Latin Quarter, and that cemetery closed in 1790s, at the time when they were closing all the cemeteries, and the bones were transferred in the catacombs. Mm-hmm. So Gilbert is in the catacombs, and I think it's quite ironic to have Gilbert tomb without bones, and you have Gilbert bones somewhere without a tomb.
We're not far, probably, from there. Okay, but at least, I mean, it's probably the only one with his tomb and the bones being not far. And
not actually. Oh, see, that's him right here.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, actually, it's a good question because it brings us to our next stop. That's the only real tombstone in the catacombs where you have, so it's the tomb of Françoise Gélin, aka Madame Le Gros, and her bones are buried next to the tombstone.
Okay, so she's the only one with her name and the bones being connected.
Yep, okay. Only tomb. That woman, she was famous because she spent most of her life trying to free a man called Latude. He was kept in jail, a man that she never met.
Okay.
So briefly, Latude, so we're in the 1740. He wants to gain the favor of Marquise de Pompadour. Marquise de Pompadour, she was the mistress of Louis XV. And so to gain her favor, he sent her a box full with poison. And then he came to see her to tell her that someone was complotting against her. Well, actually, that was him. I mean, hoping to get some money. But the shame was discovered, and Marquise de Pompadour did not really appreciate the prank, so she had him sent to La Bastille. He escaped La Bastille in 1750, got captured, put back in La Bastille. He escaped a second time. That one is my favorite because he used a rope ladder to do so. I'm going to show you a picture. That's him. And that's the rope ladder he made by using, yarn from his clothes. He chopped down a log to build the wooden scale.
Mm.
So he escaped La Bastille, got captured again, escaped 3 times. Wow. And at some point he was sent to, he was really willing to get out. And he got sent to a jail in Bicêtre, south of Paris. And that woman, Madame Le Gros, found a note that he threw out of his cell's window. And someone, for some reason, she became interested in him, though she's never met him. And so she went into a lot of trouble to free him. She went to see Marie Antoinette to plead his case. And she succeeded because in 1784, he was officially free.
So she's became kind of a self-made lawyer for the guy.
Yeah. A guy that she never met.
And okay.
No, I still don't get it. I mean, she never met the guy, but
okay.
So she got a medal for that. She got rewarded by the French Academy.
Okay. So a great woman defending someone she doesn't know. Okay.
Yeah, it was quite cool. And the funny thing, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, so how come she ended in the catacombs? So what happened then?
Well, she was buried in a cemetery of Vaugirard in 1821 that was outside of Paris at that time. And as the city expanded, well, they shut down all the cemeteries that were now inside Paris. So they shut down the Vaugirard Cemetery, that's in the 15th district, and then they brought her here.
Okay. Do you have any picture of her? Is that something we can...
No, I couldn't find any.
Any?
No. Okay. No. All I found was the him. Okay. You can see the rope if you want. It is in the Carnavalet Museum in the Marais. Okay. Because he left it behind when you escaped La Bastille, so he left the rope at La Bastille. But during the storming of the Bastille, he showed up to get the ladder back.
Okay.
Why not? All right, and to finish we enter a room called the Passion Crypt, known as the Barrel, because of the barrel that you see in the picture. Again, it's another pillar in disguise. And that's where the very first illegal event happened in the catacombs.
What do you mean by illegal event?
I mean, illegal, no official authorization. They were, so in 1897, and well, I was gonna say a few privileged, but no, around 200 people got an invitation asking them to show up above ground at midnight, and then they were blindfolded and taking down the crypt. The organizer, they managed to convince the workers to let them in, but it was completely unofficial.
So we have 200 people that are coming blinded, like they don't know where they're going.
They have no idea where they're going. And they had a classical concert, just for them. Of course, all related to death. And some journalists actually were invited, and so they wrote articles about it. People heard about the event, thought it was really cool. And well, it seems like that's what started this underground culture of, the cataphiles, when you go down illegally in the quarries.
You just say cataphile? Is that what is this word? So
cataphiles, it's a term that was created by Jack Long. He was the Minister of Culture. And so cataphiles are people going down the quarry system, not the catacombs, because the Parisians tend to call the whole system catacombs,
words, right?
Which is wrong. Okay. All right, they're quarries because they were not created to house bones.
Sure.
And so cataphiles are people that are exploring the quarry system. They come down with a map, and the cataphiles are the one who respect the sites.
Okay, so the cataphile is it's everyone fascinated going down in the quarries illegally or illegally, apparently, and so now there is still like people in cataphile.
Yeah. So you go down to take pictures or to explore. Like you have a map, and then just the idea of exploring another version of Paris. You can do picnic, and you feel like you're somewhere else.
Have you ever done that? Like, have you?
Twice. I went down twice. Yep. Never go down on your own if you do not have a map. A friend of a friend had a map, so he invited me one night. You have to come prepared. Like they told me, all right, you have to wear, like raincoats, maybe like rainy boots, which I did not do, because at some point you can have water all the way up to your waist.
Wow. Do you have a picture of that?
I have picture of the sites, but not me in the the quarries.
Yeah, if you can show us a little bit of okay, so now we're talking outside of the normal.
Yes, that's the illegal part. Yeah, it's been illegal since 1955.
Okay.
You can get a fine. There's a patrol of the police that are watching everything. You can get €100 fine if you get caught.
Okay, so what are either entrances that like is there a specific entrance to get there?
There are manholes that you can use. The one I used was not too far from the catacombs. There's an old train tracks running in Paris. So I went down on the tracks, and under the tunnel, there's a hole. And so you have to crawl. And it's really hard, actually. There's a little hole, and you're like this. But it's quite cool. Actually really, really cool. So you have different themed quarries in a way. Like that one. Because there's a elite group of cataphiles. They're called the Mexicains de la Perforation. That makes no sense. In English, it would be like the Mexican Consolidated Drilling Authority. It makes no sense in English or in French. It's a group of cataphiles, but like the elite cataphiles.
You have names, okay.
And in 24, the police found out a movie theater, like what you see on the picture, but like with a movie screen, a bar with alcohol, a kitchen. They had like a telephone, internet as well.
But how can they, like, how can they access to electricity, or I mean, they're doing the deviation and cables
Yeah, they
and
didn't know how they got the connection from.
oh my god, this is yeah, it looks very modern. Like you couldn't think we are underground in the middle of
No,
nowhere.
it's quite cool. No, I don't think that one because I've tried to look for a picture online of the actual room with the movie screen, but there's a fire extinguisher. So I don't think that's the actual picture of the movie theater done by the Mexicaine de la Perforation.
Okay. Do you have
But
any other
there,
pictures to us of this part of the cat? I mean, oh, sorry, of the quarries.
the quarries.
Yeah. Do you have any other pictures to show us?
Yeah. But just to finish about the movie theater, they came back later, to make a proper, like a formal investigation. All the equipments were gone,
Ah.
all of it, and they only had one note left saying "Ne cherchez pas, don't look for us."
Mm. Okay.
But
So
I have that picture. This is the La Plage, the beach, Beach, case of my accent. So someone painted, reproduction of the Okusai's waves, and it's sandy, so you feel like you're in the beach. And see people, they light up candles to make the place nicer. And
so
there's another, yep.
so just yeah. So when you went down, sorry, yeah, she's a low breaker, but I saw that on the comments. So you went when you were
Don't
there.
tell anyone. Don't
No,
tell my mom.
exactly. Like she's all anonymous here. But so you saw that wave and that
Yep,
paint.
yep.
Yeah.
Because those quarries were located right next to the entrance I used.
Okay.
So I only saw like maybe like 2 or 3 quarries.
Okay. And this is a castle.
Yep, it like the same as the sculpture of Portmao. It's pretty much the same. That room is called the La Salle du Château, like the castle room. So there's a castle engraved in the stone. You cannot see, and it's quite cool because it feels like there are benches, like all around, and you have a little table so you can come and you can do parties. Or when I went down, we did a picnic, so that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And it is not on the picture, but when I came, there were toys, stuffed animal all over the castle, as if they were living here. And the guy I came down with told me you can grab a toy and bring it back home, but you need to put one toy back because they have their codes and rules as well.
Okay. So you have to respect. So you say you had like a kind of a guide with you, like that know more about the rituals, about where to go, what to see. So and how long that stay? Like, did you stay an hour or two or more? Like, do
I have
you?
no idea. The first one I came, I think we stayed maybe 3 or 4 hours because we were exploring. And the second time I came, it was with some colleagues. And the guy I came down with had maps, but still didn't know his way around. So we stayed for like maybe like 2 or 3 hours.
Okay. Okay. So
But
that's
the second time I came, it was daytime, probably like 6 p.m. So we went down, to have a couple of beers, and it was really odd because it was sunny outside and noisy, and then when you go down, it's dark, it is quiet, so you really feel like you're somewhere else.
wow. Okay. Wow. That's a great experience. At the same time, it's kind of very scary for me, but looks pretty impressive. So it's great. So is it something that yeah, you might, I don't know, do again? You think?
Oh yeah, because I really like the experience.
Okay.
I keep asking my friends, okay, because it's a friend of a friend, so I keep asking, okay, when do we go down? But yeah, because it's not something that you do quite often, and I think that's why the catacombs were so successful as well. Because it's cool. That's not something that you'll see a lot in Paris that you get to do often, and you get to explore another version of the city. And I like going places where there's no one. Like if I want to go outside and get a beer, I like to go to quiet places. So that was nice. I
Well,
like that.
interesting. So these plus the catacombs. So it's a very rich world underground there. And so when you're doing the just the catacomb tour, are the people expecting for this, like for the illegal part? No, they know it's like two different things, right?
No. Usually, so I show them those pictures, and they're pretty amazed because they don't know about the quarries. They
Yeah.
don't know that the catacombs are in quarries, and all of them think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it is pretty cool. But thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Well, you're welcome.
That's great. Okay.
Oh, I got one final picture.
Oh, that's,
See
yeah.
what that's in the catacombs. That's quite cool.
Okay.
Usually the families I take down, they always take pictures, you know, around the hearts, like a little family picture.
But that's great. But thank you so much, Charlotte. If
Thank you, Marie.
if we have some other question, please. They say the secret of you going down there is safe. So it's just staying between.
I hope. If I get in trouble, I know where to go to. I will look online and say, "Oh, that's that guy."
If you have any last question, please do in comments. Also, if you want to help us, you know that right now our little business is getting, you know, no business at all, actually. So if you want to help us, you can, of course, write reviews, you can comment, you can share, you can tip. Also, Charlotte, you can tip your guide. You can see other videos that we're making. You can follow us every week. There is a lot of ways of helping us, but thank you so much. I see.
I had to do it.
No, kind of scary. You're scary because
it is. Like my head is floating.
This weird zoom effect with the application. So thank you so much for being there tonight with us. And if you're interested in Père Lachaise, we're going to put that on the list. And if you have other ideas of places to go, please tell us. Knowing that next week is going to be Le Marais. I'm going to be strolling in Le Marais. So yeah, again, come with us, and that's going to be a fun experience. But thank you so much, Charlotte. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
The catacombs, and and maybe we see you again in another visit very soon.
I would like that. Merci beaucoup. Thank you, guys.
Well,
take care of yourself.
So I just assume that you had a good time. So ciao, guys, and see you next week. Bye bye.
Bye.